Hi there. Today is January 25th, 2026. Recent years have seen a growing sense of negativity permeating public discourse in the United Kingdom, an issue which cannot be dismissed as mere pessimism, but instead demands urgent attention. This sentiment has influenced how individuals perceive their potential and affected mental health on a broad scale. The urgency of this issue has been underscored by rising rates of mental health struggles reported across the country, an increase in social discontent, and the persistent challenge of economic stagnation, all of which are interlinked with the pervasive negative outlook that has taken hold. The importance of addressing this negativity now lies in the immediate consequences it has on the younger generations, those who are expected to contribute to the country's future prosperity and innovation. Studies and surveys have begun to illuminate the profound impact this sustained negativity has on mental health, with anxiety and depression rates among youth at concerning levels. The media, social networks, and political rhetoric have become conduits for this negative sentiment, shaping perceptions in ways that can seem insurmountable for individuals striving for personal and professional growth. As we progress through 2026, public discourse has increasingly highlighted Britain's political and economic challenges, including ongoing debates about the ramifications of Brexit, economic policy uncertainties, and the government's response to global issues like climate change. While these are legitimate concerns, the narrative often skews towards a negative portrayal of the UK's potential, inadvertently fostering a national psyche of resignation and despair. Moreover, the advent of digital platforms has amplified these negative narratives, making them inescapable for many. The tendency to highlight failures over successes, controversies over cooperation, and pessimism over optimism has become commonplace. This narrative bias not only distorts reality, but also undermines the collective confidence needed to address the very challenges at hand. It creates an environment where any progress is obscured by a cloud of negativity, leading to a self-fulfilling prophecy of stagnation and decline. The call to action is clear. The way forward demands a critical reassessment of how negativity is perpetuated within society and its damaging effects on mental health and potential. Without addressing this issue urgently, the UK risks entrenching a cycle of despair that could stifle innovation, hinder economic recovery, and erode the social cohesion necessary for a thriving society. The stakes are high, and the need for change is immediate. The conventional wisdom surrounding negativity in the UK often attributes it to the nation's historical propensity for skepticism and a stiff upper lip, a cultural trait supposedly ingrained in the British psyche. Pessimism, it is argued, is merely a reflection of the British inclination to be realistic or even cautious in the face of challenges. Politicians and media figures frequently portray this negativity as an inevitable outcome of the country's socio-political landscape, citing economic uncertainties, geopolitical tensions, or the pressures of globalization as justifications for a gloomy outlook. However, this narrative is overly simplistic and fails to capture the full scope of the issue. The assumption that negativity is simply a cultural quirk underestimates its intensity and fails to acknowledge the systemic factors that sustain it. In reality, this pessimism has been exacerbated by a range of socio-economic dynamics that are not unique to the UK, but are particularly pronounced due to the nation's current circumstances. A significant oversight in the prevailing narrative is the role of the media and digital platforms in perpetuating negativity. The rise of 24-hour news cycles, social media algorithms prioritizing sensational content, and the echo chambers these platforms create have all contributed to a distorted sense of reality. These platforms often amplify negative news and feedback loops, making it more challenging for individuals to encounter balanced or positive perspectives. This media environment can lead to a skewed perception of the state of the nation, overshadowing genuine progress and achievements. Experts and commentators frequently miss the opportunity to address how this negativity affects individual and collective agency. The constant barrage of negative information can lead to a state of learned helplessness, where people feel incapable of effecting change, thereby reducing civic engagement and the drive for innovation. The narrative that British society is inherently pessimistic overlooks the impact of this psychological phenomenon, dismissing it as mere cultural idiosyncrasy rather than a critical issue that needs addressing. Additionally, politicians often frame economic and political challenges in negative terms, focusing on what cannot be done rather than what can be achieved. This rhetoric reinforces a sense of limitation and failure, overshadowing opportunities for growth and reform. The conventional wisdom that this is merely the political or economic reality fails to consider alternative narratives that could inspire and motivate positive change. In reality, the evidence suggests a more nuanced picture. Historical analysis and current data reveal that negativity in the UK is not an immutable cultural trait, but a response to specific conditions. The nation's history is replete with examples of resilience and adaptability in the face of adversity, attributes that contradict the prevailing narrative of endemic pessimism. What the historical record and evidence show is that the UK's current climate of negativity is more a product of systemic failures and external pressures than an ingrained cultural disposition. Historically, the British have demonstrated remarkable resilience and adaptability, traits that have seen the country through numerous crises, from world wars to economic recessions. This historical perspective suggests that pessimism is not an inherent British trait, but rather a reaction to contemporary challenges and the way they are framed in public discourse. Documented evidence, including surveys and studies conducted over recent years, points to the significant role of media narratives in shaping public perceptions. For instance, research into media coverage patterns reveals a disproportionate emphasis on negative news stories, which inevitably influences public sentiment. This emphasis results in a perception of the UK as a nation in perpetual decline, irrespective of the underlying realities that might suggest otherwise. Furthermore, social media platforms have compounded this issue by creating echo chambers where negative sentiments are amplified and reinforced. Algorithms designed to maximize engagement often prioritize sensationalist content, contributing to a skewed view of reality. This environment fosters a culture of pessimism that is self-reinforcing, as individuals are repeatedly exposed to negative narratives, creating a feedback loop that magnifies feelings of despair and hopelessness. The impact of this negativity on mental health is well documented. Public health reports have consistently highlighted the correlation between media-induced pessimism and increased levels of anxiety and depression. The constant exposure to negative news and commentary can lead to a sense of powerlessness, which is detrimental to mental well-being. This is particularly concerning for younger generations, who are most susceptible to the influences of social media and digital environments.
Economic data also provides evidence contradicting the pervasive narrative of decline.
While the UK faces undeniable challenges, such as the economic impact of Brexit and global market volatility, there have been areas of growth and innovation that are often overlooked. For instance, the UK's technology sector has shown resilience, with significant investments and advancements that suggest a capacity for adaptation and progress. This growth indicates potential that is often overshadowed by negative rhetoric. The evidence thus paints a picture of a nation with inherent strengths and potential that is belied by the prevailing narrative of pessimism. The negativity that currently grips public discourse is not a reflection of an unchangeable reality, but a response to specific systemic factors and media dynamics that can and should be addressed. Recognizing this distinction is crucial to shifting the narrative towards one that acknowledges the challenges while also highlighting opportunities for growth and resilience. The real tension surrounding negativity in the UK lies in the uncomfortable trade-offs that society must confront to address this pervasive issue. On one hand, there's a need to acknowledge genuine challenges and concerns, such as economic uncertainties, political instability, and social inequalities. On the other hand, the unrelenting focus on these negatives often overshadows potential solutions and opportunities for growth, creating a self-fulfilling prophecy that stymies progress and innovation. One of the most significant trade-offs is between realism and optimism. While it is essential to remain grounded in reality and address the issues facing the nation, there is a fine line between being realistic and succumbing to pessimism. The challenge lies in finding a balance that allows for constructive criticism and problem-solving without descending into despair. Acknowledging problems is necessary, but it must be coupled with a forward-looking perspective that emphasizes the potential for positive change. Another tension exists within the media landscape, where the drive for engagement and viewership often leads to a prioritization of negative content. The media plays a critical role in shaping public discourse, and there is a responsibility to provide balanced reporting that includes both challenges and successes. However, this responsibility is often at odds with the economic incentives that drive media outlets, leading to a focus on sensationalism and controversy. Addressing this tension requires a reevaluation of journalistic practices and a commitment to fostering an informed and balanced public discourse. Political rhetoric also contributes to the tension between addressing genuine concerns and fostering a positive outlook.
Politicians often resort to fear-based narratives to mobilize support and justify policy decisions,
reinforcing a culture of negativity.
This approach can be effective in the short term, but is ultimately detrimental to long-term societal well-being. Political leaders must navigate the delicate balance between being honest about challenges and inspiring confidence and hope in the population. The trade-offs inherent in addressing negativity are compounded by the need for systemic change. Shifting the narrative requires concerted efforts across various sectors, including education, where fostering critical thinking and media literacy can empower individuals to assess information critically and resist negative narratives. However, implementing such systemic changes can be resource-intensive and face resistance from entrenched interests that benefit from the status quo. Ultimately, the tension lies in the need to acknowledge and address the UK's challenges without allowing negativity to dominate public discourse and stifle potential. This complex issue requires a multifaceted approach that involves media reform, political leadership, and educational initiatives. The uncomfortable truth is that addressing negativity is not merely a matter of changing attitudes, but involves substantial systemic changes that demand time, resources, and collective commitment. If the current climate of negativity persists, the consequences for the UK could be severe and enduring. Without intervention, the nation risks entrenching a cycle of pessimism and stagnation that undermines innovation, economic growth, and social cohesion. The long-term impact on mental health is particularly concerning, as a population gripped by anxiety and depression will struggle to achieve its full potential, both individually and collectively. The potential economic implications are equally troubling. A negative national psyche can deter investment, stifle entrepreneurial spirit, and hinder the UK's ability to compete on the global stage. In an increasingly interconnected world, the UK's success relies on its capacity to innovate and adapt, qualities that are stifled by a pervasive sense of despair and limitation. A nation that cannot envisage a bright future for itself is unlikely to achieve it. Social cohesion is also at stake. Persistent negativity can exacerbate divisions within society as individuals retreat into echo chambers that reinforce their pessimistic views. This fragmentation can erode the sense of shared purpose and collective identity that is necessary for addressing national challenges. A society divided by negativity is one that will struggle to build the consensus and cooperation needed for progress. In my view,
addressing negativity in the UK requires a concerted effort to shift the narrative from one of despair to one of possibility. This involves a recognition of the systemic factors that contribute to negativity and a commitment to fostering a more balanced and constructive public discourse. Media outlets must play a crucial role in this transformation by prioritizing balanced reporting and resisting the lure of sensationalism. Political leaders, too, must embody a vision of hope and possibility, offering solutions and inspiring confidence rather than simply highlighting problems. Educational initiatives that promote media literacy and critical thinking are essential for empowering individuals to engage with information critically and resist the influence of negative narratives. By equipping individuals with the tools to assess information accurately, society can foster a more informed and resilient population capable of recognizing and addressing challenges while also valuing progress and potential. The path forward requires a collective commitment to change. It demands a recognition that negativity is not an immutable characteristic of the British identity, but a product of specific systemic factors that can be addressed. The consequences of inaction are too severe to ignore, and the time to act is now. By shifting the narrative and embracing a more balanced and hopeful perspective, the UK can unlock its potential and pave the way for a brighter future.